Righteous Lad into the Comic Verse. Chapter 2. After spending some time aimlessly flying at a timid pace, Conans finally descends to touch down upon solid ground again. The soles of his greenish cyan boots gently meet the pavement of the fairly bustling district of New York City's famous Times Square, the biggest tourist attraction this side of the USA, and proceeds to saunter his way over to the nearby bench to turn and flop down onto. Beside himself, he places his bag holding the only possessions he was able to keep hold of, which is mostly clothing. Ah man, last time it was the Justice League movie and now I'm in the Marvel comic universe. He murmurs the question to no one but himself before leaning back in his seat and hooking his arms over the back support of the metal bench. With his head tilting back, his neon jade eyes gaze pitifully up at the big blue sky above. Not that it's not a cool thing to happen, but I really wanted to take care of some things. My dad's probably going to think I'm running away, too. Maybe. Would he realize that I got caught up in Samaritan stuff? Conans ponders further upon his situation, oblivious to how many passing eyes he's drawing to himself with his dark charcoal and vibrant green hero suit standing out like a sore thumb in public. Unbeknownst to him, he's in the midst of an amalgamation of timelines made up from the various comics he owns. One of those, particularly Marvel, is the middle of Civil War II. Elsewhere. Bruce, we need to talk. Tony initiates preemptive pseudo-intervention upon entering the former's lab, accompanied by an acting third party, Carol Danvers. Oblivious to the reason, but certainly glad to see the two he calls his friends, Dr. Banner is quick to greet them with a warm grin. Tony? Carol? I had no idea you two were dropping by. He begins, then proceeds to read the mood of this visit by the emotions projecting from his friends' faces. Tony bears a soft frown that has "I'm Iron Man and even I'm worried" written all over it, while Captain Marvel stands with a posture of contempt, shoulders back, arms crossed, and a fierce glare upon her features. It's an examination that eases his smile into a witless flatline. What's going on? I take it there's more to this sudden visit. Bruce prods. It's complicated. Tony responds, struggling to find his words, how to process such an absurd situation. It's really not. But we made an agreement. We'll try to sort this out as smoothly as we possibly can by trying to do it your way. Carol chimes in sternly. Her eyes then shift toward Bruce again. Understand that this is a very crucial moment, Bruce. I need you to work with us here. Will you come with us outside? Yeah, I guess trading not wearing my armor suit for your cooperation was worth it. Hopefully. But anyway, she's right. We're here to talk to you, Bruce. All of us. I want you to know that I'm your friend and batting for you. Will you come? Just for a moment, we'll get this cleared up in a jiffy. I promise. Tony assures. Truthfully, both of their implications were causing an anxious discomfort to bubble at the pit of his stomach. Even so, he does trust them both on a significant level. Yeah, I am willing to talk. I trust you, Bruce answers to the best of his capability in such a cryptic approach from the two. Soon, the three make their way outside into the open air. What awaits them is an ocean of allies and friends clad in their vigilante suits and wearing uneasy gazes. At seeing this, at the heart-stopping silence that scraps against his nerves like talons along a chalkboard, Bruce looks over his shoulder in desperation at Tony and Carol. My God, did I do something wrong? No, Bruce, Tony quickly answers. Not yet. That's why we're here. Carol informs immediately after. Can you please explain to me what's going on? Bruce attempts to get out his question. We know you've been experimenting on yourself, Bruce. Captain Marvel coldly interrupts with a sharp accusing tone. What? Bruce arches a brow, taken aback by Carol's knowledge of his most recent research endeavor. It's then that Hank McCoy steps forward with a transparent tablet in hand that displays the files from Bruce's computer back inside his lab. It's true, I'm afraid. There's logs and graphs displaying Bruce's recent activities of trying to manipulate gamma radiation through various methods. Hank informs. Bruce, no, why? Tony asks without truly thinking. It's a question that slips out because of his sudden spike in fear that Carol's handy-dandy inhuman future teller may have been onto something when sharing a grim flash of destruction and death, given to them by none other than the Raging Hulk. Odd enough, there's a second entity that can see the undeniable boiling pot of anger that's about to be unleashed. I was trying to find a way to rid myself of gamma radiation. But you two come here, point an accusing finger at me, essentially bring a death squad to put me down, and then go on to invade my private work? My crucial research? You've got some nerve. Banner exclaims at the top of his lungs. You need to calm down, Banner, Carol warns, forming her hands into tight fists as her glare sharpens. Go to hell, damn Vare? You don't get to demand anything of me, Bruce counters. Meanwhile, yards away, and atop of a tree branch, Hawkeye inhales a deep slow breath as he readies his bow and centers his aim upon Bruce. A task that doesn't sit too well with him, but one bestowed upon him by Banner himself. He was given a tool and discretion to put Bruce down before that monstrous green beast can push itself to the forefront of Bruce's consciousness and tear them all apart. Just as Clint is about to release his bowstring and put an end to their yelling match, a sudden interruption obscures his target. A tear in thin air. A swirling vortex of red. What rage? A deep and gruff voice blurts out as a figure steps out from the hole in space, standing at an imposing height of 8 feet 1 inch. A red and black suit with bits of crimson armor clothes his broad powerful frame, while a peculiar emblem that vaguely resembles a red lantern adorns the center of his chest. His face is inhuman, demonic-like even, especially those pools of glowing red that make up his pupilless eyes. In his right hand, he holds up a red lantern, holding it before Bruce Banner as if meaning to shine light on the scientist. There was no mention of this. Who the hell are you? Carol demandingly shouts, expecting nothing good from this intruder. I am Rage Incarnate. I go where the strongest source of anger beckons me. Know my name, Earthlings. For I am Atrocitus, leader of the Red Lantern Corp. The being introduces himself at Captain Marvel's inquiry. It's then a band of similarly dressed individuals come stepping out of that red rift. All of them just as bitter and unwelcoming in appearance in their own way. All 5 of them. Though, the one exception being the floating cat who comes to hover beside the tall man in red. You've got to be kidding me, Tony utters under his breath, unsure of what to make of such a drastic change in the situation. Wadash. What do you want? Bruce questions as he looks up a mixture of various negative emotions on his face. To unleash all that glorious rage you have bottled up inside and give you the red ring you so rightfully deserve. Atrocitus answers. No, that's not what I want. I've been trying to avoid that, Bruce retorts. However, his rejection does nothing to deter the demonic fiend in front of him. It's not up for debate, insect. Let the rage out, the lantern demands just before regurgitating blood into his mouth. Steam, hot blood. With a beastly roar, he douses Bruce in its corrupting touch, spewing blood that burns like hot coffee and amplifies his anger. He just barely misses doing the same to Tony and Carol. Back with Righteous Lad. I wonder if I should apply to be an Avenger. Would that be weird? I mean, I think they are genuine good and courageous heroes, but I have a pretty strict no-killing policy, you know? I don't know if I could stomach seeing Iron Man disintegrate a guy in front of me. What do you think? Could you still think highly of a hero that you look up to if they kill a villain? Conins asks while lifting his right leg and laying its respective shin across his left leg, then placing his hands atop of that elevated limb. You kidding me? Sometimes I feel like they don't do it enough. So many superpowered psychos comin' and goin'. It's a merry-go-round of trouble that constantly winds up with the city being hit with some new crazy tragedy or invasion. The less of them there are, the better, I'd say. The middle-aged New Yorker beside responds, abrasive words parting from his lips as he opens and spreads his newspaper to give it a read. Yeah, I can understand that perspective. It's a fair one. Conins responds with a demoralized tone, his eyes averting to stare at the ground contemplatively. Taking notice of the young man's dampened mood, the civilian looks over and gently sighs. Look, kid. I get it. Kroom. Kroom 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 kroom. The sudden explosive impact of something puncturing through a dozen buildings or so erupts through the air like the crackling of lightning from a thunderstorm. The city folk panic and scatter for safety as debris falls to the city streets, especially when whatever is responsible for the destructive damage lands and creates a crater in the ground down the street and right before Conan's sighs. With his conversation cut short, the young man rises out of his seat and floats his way over to the large hole to investigate. Landing nearby, he steps a bit closer on foot and looks down to see someone laying on their back. Captain Marvel. Conins arches a brow with a look of confusion and concern. It's then an animalistic cry sounds off with a massive echo nearly 20 miles away. A roar that sends birds abruptly taking to the sky out of fear and turns the heads of countless people, each of them wondering what exactly is going on. Damn it, Bruce. Like a zombie rising from its slumber, Captain Marvel stirs to consciousness and immediately sits up within her crater, holding her head as she recalls who sent her flying in the first place. Without dwelling on her thoughts, Carol rises to stand and takes off with a sonic burst of speed in an instant. Bruce? The Hulk? Conin's questions under his breath as his keen eyes follow the heroine taking off. Do I follow her? Is it really my place to get involved in the Avengers' affairs? The young man thinks to himself as skepticism takes shape upon his features. It's then a violent shake rocks the ground beneath his feet and nearly knocks him off his stumbling feet when a thunderous BAAAAMMM makes itself heard throughout the entire city. Is that what it's like when the Hulk is hitting the ground? With both concern and curiosity as his motive, Conins takes off via flight and follows Captain Marvel's path of flight. It doesn't take long at all for his eyes to pick up a struggle in the distance. Flashing lights, a thrown tree effortlessly flying into the air while spinning, and even airborne fighters shooting down with careful precision with energy projectiles while maneuvering above the battlefield. It's all Conins needs to see before he hurries over to interject his aid into the situation. Just in time to arrive just as a large boot is about to stump Wolverine's entire torso into the grassy ground. I got you, man. Conins exclaims as he practically comes landing into a slide, winding up with a bending leg planting into the ground for leverage in front of him while his other is outstretched behind him, and his hands reaching out to catch that foot. Nice catch, bub. Let's see if we can't take him down a peg. Logan's gruff voice graces the young man's ears just before the sound of metallic scraping of those unbreakable claws extending follow. Back and up on his feet, Wolverine lashes out with animalistic cries as he begins cutting into flesh. Calf, thigh, abdomen, the feral X-Man draws lime green blood and does enough harm to get the big green unstoppable force of nature to stumble back a few steps while growling. It's then Conins finally gets a good look at what they're dealing with, and it draws a disturbed look upon his face. Why is he in a Red Lantern suit? That's not canon to Marvel. While wrestling with his thoughts, Wolverine continues his assault. Hulk attempts to swiftly pound Wolverine into the dirt with an overhead down punch, but the mad green brawler's fist only ends up meeting the grassy field. Nimble, Logan evades with ease and then proceeds to take a thrusting jab that results in his claws piercing flesh and muscle. More blood is drawn. There's far less of an obvious reaction from Hulk this time. A swift retaliation of swatting Wolverine away with that very same arm follows. However, Hulk isn't given any time to breathe. War Machine, Captain Marvel, Hawkeye, and even Cable begin laying into the raging monster. Explosive arrows, plasma shots, missiles, all of it and then some come bombarding down upon the Hulk. Despite holding his arms up in defensive fashion to guard his face, the green Red Lantern doesn't crumple under the pressure. In the midst of Conins staring like a deer in headlights, Rogue and Captain Marvel come flying past him to charge the Hulk down. Get out of the kitchen if ya can't take the heat, Sugar. Rogue tells him while passing by before a flurry of blows begin erupting like dynamite through the air. The bumpkin of a heroine goes for a liver shot that she puts everything behind while the blonde slides in on the solace of her boots and lunges skyward to slip an uppercut through the Hulk's defense, both managing to make him reel and grimace. They keep on him, throwing blow after one another. However, the effectiveness of their attacks begin to lose their edge. As if adapting to the pain as the seconds pass, Hulk tanks an explosive jab that turns his head ever so slightly while trading with one of his own, sending Carol Danvers soaring away like a cannonball into the distance. Quick to shift his focus, the Hulk then reaches to grab Rogue by her neck and upper torso with his right hand and draws back his left within a prepping fist. No you don't. Before he can take that shot, Blue Marvel intervenes with an energy blast to his back before following up by rushing into and snare the raging monster within a rear chokehold. Seeing this, Conan's sighs perk up and his mind finally pushes distractions to the back. He flies in and throws the hardest punch he can while using his momentum to amplify its power. KROOM. A violent shockwave discharges on impact, resulting in spit flying, his grip on Rogue relinquishing. and him stumbling back several steps. Quick to keep the pressure on, Conance moves in and starts wailing with firm decisive blows while Blue Marvel does his best to restrain and distract with that choke hold he has locked in. Alas, even their combined efforts lose its effectiveness. Through gritting teeth, the Hulk catches the young man's seventh punch within his massive hand and pulls him while simultaneously throwing his head forward to deliver a bone-rattling headbutt that meets his forehead. Spot on and rocks him like a lifeboat traversing a tsunami on a stormy night. Knies nearly goes completely limp and drops to his feet, though Hull's grip is the only thing keeping him from collapsing face first. The Red Lantern's other large hand reaches over his shoulder and yanks Blue Marvel from his back before he begins slamming them into the ground, ragdolling one by the arm and the other by his jacket back and forth several times, eventually tossing Conance like a football out toward the ocean and Blue Marvel through buildings in the city. Conance, still struggling to get over the daze the Hulk left him with, involuntarily flips as he soars through the air. Just as he's on the verge of losing momentum and descending, he's caught by someone from behind. "Whoa there, I got you," a voice reassures him while lending a supportive arm around his shoulder. "NNNGH, thanks." Conance responds, grimacing as he lifts a hand to palm his forehead. Just as he's collecting himself enough to support himself with flight, the other begins to speak again. "Righteous lad?" A question that makes him curiously turn his head toward the one asking, whom he sees brings a beaming smile on his face. "Superman? Wait, you remember me?" he questions with an arching brow. "Of course I do. You left a big impression on me before," Kall affirms with a smile of his own. However, a thunderous impact back on land interrupts their reunion and redirects focus. "What's going on over there?" Batman said he picked up an unnatural seismic disturbance over in New York City, so I came as soon as I could to look into it. "Trouble." The Hulk is wearing a Red Lantern ring. Conance tells him. "Hulk? I'm not sure who that is, but if Red Lanterns are involved, then I at least know for sure that it's nothing good. Can you still fight?" "Yeah, I'm not down yet." "Good. Let's go." And with that, the two take off with an abrupt burst of speed back to the source of commotion. Superman arrives in time to see and react to the monster of a man in black and red preparing to squish someone's head between his large hands like a grape, an attempt put to an immediate stop by a deafening blow of a punch that sends the Hulk soaring like a bullet through a dozen buildings and until he tumbles onto the premises of a factory. The moment Superman arrives hovering a few feet above the ground, the enraged Lantern lets out a vicious roar and begins charging the Kryptonian down. Superman readies himself, but a swift righteous lad comes swooping down and transitioning seamlessly into an aggressive baseball slide that kicks Hulk off his feet and lunges him at Superman. The latter makes use of that moment and closes in to deliver a devastating rising knee to the chin that lofts the monster 20 feet into the air. Taking notice, Righteous Lad performs a floaty backflip to meet the Hulk at the peak of his involuntary accession before abruptly stomping the Hulk's head down into the ground. As sharp as their teamwork is, the Hulk immediately shoots back up with an angry roar. "We may need to keep him off balance and restrain him." Quickly rushing forward, Superman grabs the Gamma Madman by the foot and begins spinning, gradually building speed with every twist until there's a powerful turbulence strong enough to make Righteous Lad's jacket float within its domineering wind. Then, Kall sends him flying up, and away, beyond the city, beyond the clouds, and into the cold vastness of space. The two of them follow behind while Superman takes a moment to radio into the Justice League via the earpiece he's wearing. "Hal? Kyle? John? Going to need some lantern power out in space. Pinpoint my location."